Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Failing is quitting. Losing is not failing. Losing is learning. So when you can take that perspective and understand what you're doing here and realize that there's a bigger picture involved, it makes it a lot easier to do what you love.
You don't need to play it safe.
This was spectacular.
I'm going to be really honest, so I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, that's what we want.
And there will be bumps in the road. There will be twists and turns.
You needed moxie on the floor and volume.
It's the results and the connections and the improvement, the impact we have on other people's life. And that's when life becomes exciting.
Who do you turn to personally to get back on the thriving track?
I was really, really interested in how the world works.
Thanks for the great introduction.
It was really very simple. I just read part of your bio. Be brief, be bright, be gone.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, we have two unbelievable athletes. One currently won the NCAA men's wrestling title at 141 pounds to cap off a 37-1 rookie season. He became just the second Cornell University rookie to secure a national title. The only other person ever to do that is our second guest, who went on to win 4 national championships from 2010 to 2013. That sound about right? And just this week went on to win the 2018 World Championship and was on his neck a little while ago donning this very newly minted gold medal, but he left it in his room, so we're a little upset with him right now, but we'll let that slide. Thrive Loud listeners, I bring you two of the more impressive individuals you will not only find on a wrestling mat, but on this planet. Dake and Yianni Diakomihalis. Did I get that as good as I could?
Yeah.
All righty. Gentlemen, welcome to Thrive Loud.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
Okay, so you guys each spoke this morning at an annual conference here at Cornell, and I want to congratulate both of you. You guys are literally a newly minted national champion in college, in the professional ranks, and we've had former tennis champions, NBA basketball players, NHL professionals on Thrive Loud, but we've never had any champion wrestlers, so I'm excited about this. Most people associate Cornell University with academics. If you could, I'm going to start with you, Kyle. Share with the listeners what the wrestling program here at Cornell and how it's perceived in the NCAA as it relates to college sports. Can we start off with that?
Yeah, I would say most schools outside the wrestling world look at Cornell and don't think, athletics or anything like that. But inside the wrestling world, everyone knows that we're a powerhouse and knows that we always come to wrestle hard, and nobody really likes to wrestle us, and they kind of get a little bit nervous because they don't want to lose some smart kid from Cornell. They want to go out and dominate. Where most of the time it's the Big Ten or the ACC or Big 12, those conferences. But we've really put our school on the map and had some really successful athletes. And I in my time at Cornell, we got 3 trophies, and we had 1 5th-place finish, but probably the best seasons we've had so far, and hopefully we can beat that, best that, and win a national championship.
There was no pressure there to Yianni, as we have the active NCAA person and now the professional. So wait, I want to go through this. When did Cornell start becoming the national powerhouse in a top 10 program every year? When did that start to build up?
So before I was getting recruited, they had some studs in the program. It was probably 2003, 2004, or 5. Travis Lee from Hawaii came to Cornell, and he was a 2-time national champ, and he was incredible. I remember he was one of the first guys from Cornell that I'm like, wow, this guy's the real deal, and I think I can win at Cornell as well. And after that, we had guys like Jordan Lean, Troy Nickerson, all of these guys who won national titles, and then I came in and I did my thing, but then I had teammates who were winning national titles. We had Steve Bozak, Cam Simes come in and win, then Gabe Dean, Nashawn Garrett, and now Yianni. We've had so we've been very fortunate with the success that we've had, and hope to even be more fortunate here coming in the future.
So I'm going to pass the mic over here to Yianni because this is an impressive story. I'll give a little bit of the background. Yianni just won the NCAA championships this this spring, right? Like this March, a few months ago. That's kind of spring. In Ithaca, that's really winter. We know that. But maybe most notably, Yianni, you spoke to us this morning, and it seemed that you actually overcame something pretty impressive in the last 2.5 matches, if you would. We'll call that. What actually happened on your matches from the quarterfinals, the semifinal, into the finals?
So in the first minute of my quarterfinal match, I was wrestling Dean Hiles, defending 2-time national champ, and I tore my ACL right in the first minute of the match, and I didn't really know it, and I just knew something was going on, but you just kind of understand that that's what's going on and keep pushing through. I got through that match, and I just finished out the weekend taping my leg and taking Advil.
I want you to share with the listeners what you actually said, which I thought was interesting. You have a very, I don't want to minimize it, but it's a very smart mindset when you hit the mat. You basically had a choice, right? You had a choice. What was the choice? And you shared it with us, and we all thought it was brilliant.
My options were I could be injured and lose the match, or be injured and win. So, you might as well win the match. And regardless of what's going on, you can't let it bog you down because it's a national tournament. Like, this is what you've spent your whole season getting ready for, so who cares?
Kyle, I'm going to pass this back to you here. This is an important thing that I think when people think of wrestling, they look at it as it's one-on-one. It is the true definition of me versus you. And some of the most competitive people in business and in life have certain mindsets that they need to tap into. Share with the listeners a little bit about the mindset that you take right before you're about to begin a match.
My mindset is always pretty much the same no matter which match I go into, whether I'm wrestling in a local tournament or if I'm on the world stage. The biggest thing for me is to understand that this is something that I do every single day, and I'm really good at it. I know what to do. There's nothing that's going to be thrown at me that I don't know how to react to. And after 23 years of experience wrestling and honing my craft, I became I became proficient at it. I know what I'm doing out there. So trusting myself and trusting my training has been a huge part in my success. And it's also trusting my coaches and trusting my cross training to get me to where I need to be.
So let's talk about this particular part of what you guys do. You are the best in what you do in your own life, but yet you have a simple way of approaching it. And Kyle, I just want to point to something you spoke about this morning. Talk us about the importance of not thinking too much.
Yeah, so a lot of times, I've in practice, or whether it's a simulation match or just even a real match, sometimes you kind of overthink things, and you try to think your way through an attack or think your way through a position, and a lot of times that's just slower than if you just react. And there was a couple times in the tournament where I was thinking a little bit too much and ended up losing some points. I probably could have scored a handful more points and gotten off the mat a little bit quicker, but I made some mental errors, which luckily didn't cost me a world championship. But it's those little things that you train for. I train every single day so I don't have to think. I train it into my body so that I don't need to think about what I'm doing. I just go out and do it. And you'll see that the best athletes, when they're tired, their default is to where their training was. So if you're training at a lower level and you're not really into it, and then you expect to step up for the big event, you're probably not going to. So if you can train at a high level, and then when you get tired or whatever, you fall back on your training, and hopefully that training is good enough to get you through it.
Do you think so it's reactive is what's going in there, and in your brain, and I'm actually going to ask this question of Yianni. Yianni, help the listeners understand. Sometimes you guys, when you're wrestling, there's a clock. It's no different. It's different quarters that you guys are working through, and there's actually amount of time that you have to accumulate points. Share with the Thrive Out listeners, when you won the championship, how much time was left, and did a switch click at the end, knowing what you needed to do?
So in the finals, I was down 4-3 with about 40. I remember getting out, and there's about 40 seconds left on the clock. And ideally, nothing changes. You're always looking to score and you're looking to attack. But in certain circumstances is where you, like Kyle was talking about, how you go back to your training. There's always that. It could be a move, could be a series of moves, could be a series of attacks that you've been constantly working on that I'm down by a point, I need to score, I have short time, I'm going to this. And it doesn't have to be one thing, it can be a few things. And under pressure, you need to be able to calm your mind and go back to your training and think about those things that you've been working on and tap into it. And it's almost like how I was talking about, it's just a trained response. You don't consciously do it. You don't consciously think, oh, I have to go to this now. It's just something that happens, and you just kind of buy into it.
So now here we are in a world where most college athletics is the peak for most particular sports. And I'm looking at 5 championships, national championships between the two of you, and one is still counting possibly down the road here. So the question is, because wrestling has not traditionally been a place that people flock to on television, talk about becoming a professional wrestler and how the sport has evolved, and it continues to evolve as one of the key players in our country. Globally, it's a huge thing, but as a marketing tool, it's still in its infancy. Talk to me about the state of the business, if you would, of professional wrestling. Yeah,
so I'm probably one of the first wrestlers who can do it full time. Within the past 7 years, 8 years, they've developed regional training centers, basically allowing colleges to provide an opportunity for senior level athletes to continue to train within their, basically in their room. So with a regional training center, I'm training for the Olympic team. I'm allowed to wrestle with the Cornell guys. I'm allowed to be in there and train with them, just so I don't have to have one spot in the country where I can go train. And most of the time I was at the Olympic Training Center. And then also in 2012 and 2013, there was a lot of hype behind David Taylor from Penn State and myself. He just came off of an undefeated season where he won the Hodge Trophy, which is the Heisman of wrestling, and he was at 165 pounds. And that year, I just finished my 3rd national title and was going for my 4th, and decided that I was going to go up and challenge him. And that's where the media really started to pay attention a little bit more, and they started building up wrestling in a different way because they had, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird type athletes. So, they basically changed the whole NCAA finals format just for us because they wanted us to be last. And, after I won my national title, I got my 4th, and that's kind of where the ball really started going down the hill. And hopefully it continues. I have sponsors now. Milwaukee Tools is one of my big sponsors. ASICS.
He's doing a very good job of the shout-outs. We like this. We'll make sure to tag them on the show notes, too.
I have a bunch of different sponsors. Cherry Bundy's another one. That's a Cornell company, or Cornell invested company. X Athletic Apparel, Tiny Mercury Wrestling Club, New York Regional Training Center. There's a ton of support that I get, so that the only thing I have to concentrate on is wrestling. There's nothing else that I have to do other than wrestle. And Pure and Clean Sports, or another one. I forgot. I can't.
You took the plug section. You did a good job. It's impressive, actually.
Thank you.
Went through it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so with this, here you are now as a professional, and here's someone that is an amateur at this stage of the game. Do you feel, because of this success that you've had right now, Kyle, that more and more people are seeing the potential opportunity to leave the amateur status when they graduate and find a career in professional that they can do more full-time? Do you think that's a potential that grows in time?
So actually this coming month, November 30th, there's it's called the American Wrestling League, and it's an attempt for a professional wrestling league, and I am one of the captains of the teams. David Taylor, the guy I beat in 2013, is the other captain. He just won a world championship as well. So, we're both coming off world championship runs, and now we're going to be the player, coach, captain, whatever you want to call us. We'll be Jackie Moons for our team.
I like it.
And so that's happening November 30th live on Track Wrestling, which is pretty cool.
Oh, awesome.
And hopefully, within the next couple of years, we'll have teams established. and we'll have an opportunity for guys like Yianni after they graduate to become a professional. You know, a lot of times everyone is driven by the Olympics, and that's fantastic. The Olympics is the pinnacle of wrestling for everyone here. But you know, if you go back and you look at how baseball started, how NBA started, how the hockey league started, you know, it didn't start as big as it is right now.
Right.
You have to start somewhere, and we're just 80 years behind. You know, we just decided that we were going to wait 80 years before we tried to do something and actually put out a product that people want to see. And fortunately for us, the social media era has played a big role.
Yeah.
You know, my following has been, you know, I'm over 250,000 followers. And, you know, David Taylor's the same way. And we have guys like Kyle Snyder and Helen Maroulis who they have huge followings as well. You know, for a wrestler to have that many followers is kind of crazy. Whereas, you know, you see LeBron James who has 70 million or something like that. So, you know, hopefully 80 years from now when we have, you know, my great-grandchildren or grandchildren, when they're coming through, they'll be the next famous wrestlers, and
there'll be something other than Twitter or Instagram
exactly.
by then. There'll be something else we'll be able to follow.
Yeah.
I want to ask this question as it relates now to you, Yianni, and this has to do with everyone who's been to high school in the United States knows the kids who've been on the wrestling team. They're always struggling with up and down with weight and trying to make the weights that you guys are trying to wrestle at. One, I want to ask you personally, how are you at adapting to the weights you need to make? And as a college student, as a student studying, working out, training, how does that play into your everyday life and making sure that you make it?
The first thing when introducing kids to the sport is I don't think you should make them cut weight. I think it should be something that is an option, and I think that's the biggest fallacy parents have with the sport is that they think every wrestler has to cut a bunch of weight. That's not true.
Or gain a bunch of weight,
Or
I guess.
gain a bunch of weight.
One would be the
Look,
other.
like Kyle just won a world title at a weight class that he doesn't cut a lot of weight in. We're literally just talking about how he diets well and he always eats a great diet, but he's not cutting a ton of weight. He's not overly dehydrating himself. And guys can do it without cutting a ton of weight. I don't cut a ton of weight. It's something I have to make sure I put effort towards. It's something Kyle puts effort towards, but it should be just a lifestyle. Just eating healthy food and eating a good diet. And then, you know, you put your work in the day before the weigh-in, make weight, and, you know, that's it. So I think sometimes people think wrestling's a weight-cutting contest, and I think that's one thing that's actually been changing in the United States is people are starting to shift more towards the skill and more towards wrestling as an art form and less about just cutting weight and being tough and being in shape.
No, beautifully said. And I guess that's actually a thing because one of the things that Kyle had mentioned, right, is that as you are now, you just won a world championship at one weight class. There are many more weight classes, I guess, at the Wrestling World Championship than there are at the Olympics. Can you share that? And because I know that there's a goal here, right? Mm-hmm. You just won a world championship. You won all these collegiate ones. You have one other one that you're looking.
Yeah.
out
So
there.
the Olympics is the pinnacle goal, and
that would be Tokyo. I would guess.
Yes, Tokyo 2020. What happened is a while back, the IOC decided that they wanted to cut some of the sports or some of the participants in wrestling. And in order to do that, they started taking away weight classes. So there used to be 10 weight classes at the Olympics, and then they cut it down to 8, and then 7, and now it's 6. So there's only 6 weight classes that we can wrestle in, but there's 10 at the World Championships. So I'm at one of the non-Olympic weight classes, so I have to decide here in the next year or two which weight class I'm going to go and which way I'm going to approach this. But it's kind of funny. My freshman year in college, I was the same weight as Yianni. I wrestled 141, and I went through a little bit of a growth spurt midway through the season. So at the end of the year, I was cutting a lot of weight, unfortunately. And then the next year, I was the same thing. I went 149, had another growth spurt, ended up having to cut a little bit more weight than I wanted to, and decided to go up again. So my whole career, I've rarely stayed at the same weight class, and have been bumping up ever since. So now I wrestle 174, and it's been awesome. You know, I weigh about 177 pounds, and 3 pounds for me is like absolutely nothing.
Right.
You know, I can lose that in 15 minutes if I have to.
If you started to think enough, the steam will come out of your ear to go do that. I want to be sensitive of time because both of you, I'm so appreciative of you guys both being here. I'm going to go through some standard questions, and this is a fun one. We all have off days, right? And not every day is the days that we're killing it and we're doing the best that we can. You guys have had it when you've been in wrestling. So I love to ask the guests that are on this program, when you have trouble thriving, what practice do you seek, or what mindset do you achieve, or who do you look to help yourself get back on that thriving track?
A big thing for me, if I'm having a rough day, is making sure I'm well recovered. So I'll get an ice bath, or I'll, get on a lacrosse ball and rub my legs out, and I'll go home and it's funny, take time off from wrestling to watch wrestling, but
you don't really get away from it too far, but that's okay.
It's something I really love, and sometimes I think on the days that you don't love it, you need that reminder that you love it. And I'll just go home, I'll watch wrestling, I'll watch international stuff, I'll watch Kyle, I'll watch whoever, and just without even realizing it, 1, 2, 3 hours might go by, and you're like, man, I really do just enjoy doing this, and it's something I always want to do. And sometimes it's just a little mental refresher you need. Is just going back to why you do this so much.
I like that. Kyle, what about you? What's your way to get back on the thriving track?
When I was younger, it was a little bit different, but now it's I go home to my wife, and she's 30 weeks pregnant right now. So
oh boy,
I kind of rubber belly.
So
and
baby's due in January.
January
okay.
12th. So I try to make the baby move a little bit so I can feel. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl. Feel move a little bit, but then I also have two golden retrievers.
Okay. You're a dog lover. We love this. That you love dogs. Yes.
Yeah, it's a nice little dopamine hit when I get to go home and see them. They're just so excited to see me and hang out. But those are probably my two biggest ways of refreshing myself and getting focused. Is just hanging out with my family and doing things like that.
I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and we're going to wrap up here. The first one being. Let's give all the plugs. Let's get that out of the way, and let's get some big wrestling dates. The wrestling season begins and ends, and help understand it. We're in it, I know.
So the team's first event unofficially will be the Binghamton Open next weekend. Our home opener is 2 weeks from tomorrow. We wrestle West Virginia.
Okay.
And then we're going to the tournament in Vegas. We got a tournament in Florida, and then Ivy League season picks up in January, and EIWA tournament's going to be the first weekend of March at Binghamton University. National tournament will be third weekend in March in Pittsburgh. So, quick recap, that's the season.
And we have a different schedule on the professional end. So tell us what's coming up on your calendar, Mr. Champion.
Yes.
World Champ.
So after the AWO event in the end of November, we have a little bit of a lull. I'm going to be traveling with these guys and helping them out, and then I'll be waiting for my baby to come along. And then after that, there's probably some overseas tournaments. Typically, the schedule comes out at around December, so we'll know where I'll be headed. Likely Belarus, some old Soviet bloc over there, maybe Azerbaijan. There's always a tournament in mid-February over there, so that's probably the next thing for me. And then World Team Trials are in June, so we'll have another World Team to make and another World Gold Medal to win.
Oh, I love it. And I want to ask this question first here to Yianni. As you've got three more full seasons of college wrestling to go, is this a path that you would love to head onto, being a professional?
Yes, 100%. I'm going to try and make the senior world team this year. Hopefully I do. If I don't, back to the drawing board, try again another year. But the ultimate goal is to win a world title and win a gold medal and win an Olympic gold medal, and as many of those as possible. And guys like Kyle, and he's talking about David Taylor and Snyder and Helen Maroulis are the people that are laying the foundation for guys like me to come through. So that's the goal. It's
great stuff. I'm going to give one last question before we have the fun question, and that is to you. What is the thing that you have taken from wrestling the most that has helped you the most in life?
It's just a general ability to overcome adversity for me. I feel like there's so many times in wrestling where you kind of want to give up, or you had a rough day, so you want to just take the day off or whatever, and every day you come in and you get through it, and it's a rewarding feeling to push through something you didn't want to do. And then the other big thing for me is it's a huge stress reliever, where if I am having a bad day, I can come into practice and leave all my problems at the door and go through, and if I have a good workout, it's something good to come out of every day, and it's something I look forward to every day. So it's just the little things that get me through.
And Kyle, to you, what have you taken out of it? It's been your life and now your career. It has so much more to go, I imagine.
I think the biggest thing for me is learning more about myself and extracting the greatest potential out of me every single day. I always talk about getting 1% better than you were yesterday. So getting that 1% has played a crucial role in my development as not only a wrestler but as a man. You know, a lot of times, you know, when I was younger, I was childish and you know, a little immature, and now that I'm older, I kind of have a better understanding of what needs to be done and how to act as a man. And you know, I think a big thing is just, you know, getting 1% better and learning how to fail. You know, you don't failing is quitting. You know, losing is not failing. Losing is learning. So when you can take that perspective and understand what you're doing here and realize that, you know, there's a bigger picture involved, it makes it a lot easier to do what you love.
I look forward to competing with these two on this stage when you guys are motivational speakers and going out to events, because you guys got a message that's great, and I hope the Thrive Loud listeners now know why you two guys thrive loud. Final signature question here on Thrive Loud. Your all-time favorite movie?
This is a tough one. I knew you were going to ask it, and I like Pulp Fiction, but I like a lot of comedy movies too. I feel like it just depends on what I'm feeling, honestly. But
Pulp Fiction's a good one. We've had a bunch of those.
Yeah. A lot of Pulp
what's your
Fiction
favorite?
guys?
Why do you connect the most with that movie? What's your favorite part of that movie?
It's cool. It's got I think I just like it because it's kind of like a quirk. It's got some weird quirks to it that I like, and it's just like a different movie. And I think I just like that it's just different than your normal movie.
It's priceless dialogue, and also, as you said, the broken timeline is always a unique part of any movie, trying to figure out where it all goes. And Kyle, you?
It's a loaded question. You know,
it's a loaded. I know. And by the way, we recognize that it is an unfair question, but that's what we love about it. We want to see people.
If we're talking about drama or comedy, you know, if I'm gonna connect with one movie, and the movie that I quote the most with my wife and all my friends has to be Dumb and Dumber.
I love it.
You know, it's just something that it just lightens the mood. It makes everyone a little bit happier, and you know, it was basically the first of its kind.
Yep.
And you know, people have tried to imitate it, but you know, they always fall short.
This has been awesome. I can't thank the two of you enough for not coming on, man. This has been great. Thrive Loud listeners, this has been a treat. These are two individuals who are embodying what this show is all about. So again, Kyle, Yianni, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Got room for one more if you still want to go to Aspen.
Where did you find that?
Some kid back in town. Traded the van for it, straight up. I can get 70 miles to the gallon on this hog.
You know, Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.